Florence Planning and Zoning Commission. Mr. Harmon, you take the roll, please. Present.
Here.
What'd you say, Mr. Chairman? Oh, mine's not working. Go ahead, keep talking. I'll catch up.
There we go. Commissioner Schmidt?
Present.
Commissioner Schopel?
Present.
Vice Chair Frost?
Present.
And Chairman Pranzo.
Present.
Mr. Chairman, we have a quorum.
Would you all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Discussion, approval, disapproval of the minutes of the regular meeting conducted on September 27, 2018. Do we have any comments?
Mr. Chairman, we did receive a couple comments from the Vice Chair. Those have already been incorporated.
I'm not having a good time here.
I don't see that that's reflected in the one on the desktop here, one that I called in. Okay. And the Mr. Chairman, the change that I had spoken to Larry about was, it says that I had chaired the meeting when in fact you did. So I asked him to change that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that has been changed on the one you'll sign.
Very good. Any other comments? Then, on the basis of the comments forwarded by Vice Chair Frost, I will move that we approve the minutes.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried. New business, the Planning and Zoning Commission will adjourn from a regular meeting. So I will move that we adjourn from the regular meeting to a work session so that we all can have immense fun with the sign code. Do I have a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned. All right, let me just preface this for a moment for those who have not been in Florence for a long time, or at least not on this commission for a long time. This is a hot button issue in times of economic prosperity. There is always arguments over signs. It's a freedom of expression, freedom of speech, and it has to be thoughtful, and you have to put yourself in the shoes of a commercial business trying to attract business. This particular code has had a lot of work done to it, and I can see that more work has been done. So we have to be thoughtful as we go through this and think about what's happening. One of my questions is, will other members of the commercial district have an opportunity to meet with you and review this?
Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission, absolutely. There's a rather comprehensive process that's established through our code and through state law, for that matter, of public input, even prior to a public hearing in front of the Commission and ultimately in front of the Council.
Right.
So yes, we were already discussing it earlier today, putting together a stakeholders list for direct contact, plus it'll be posted on the website. We'll note it on our social media pages. Yeah, we want to do a very comprehensive public outreach.
Great. Because once this is adopted, it's too late.
Right. One of the things, though, and maybe if it's all right with the chair, I'll go ahead and start introducing the subject in a little bit more detail. But the majority of this draft was actually completed by the Commission 3 years ago now.
Yes.
And has been posted on the town's website for that period of time for input, but for whatever reason, it was never followed through on. And it just sat there. So it never got final adoption or processes or whatever. Since that time, there have been certain changes in technology. There have been court cases that rulings have come down that we had to reflect in the sign code. So a lot of what you see in here that is in red has been done to try to comply with all those activities that have taken place. Just real briefly to address the chairman's specific concern, we are, and we have talked about this earlier today also, we are going to figure out a way that the downtown, the specific downtown area has its own set of rules. And we're going to look at how we can handle that best, because of HDAC, because of the historic district, things of that nature, that it has its own process, which is already established through HDAC, that we need to at least refer to in this code, if not reiterate it. But, the downtown and the Old Town area has certain trials and tribulations, if you will, that are unique to that versus new development that may happen out off of Hunt Highway. And so we're going to be addressing that in the course of the final draft.
One of the problem areas with the historic district has been the rules of the road. When a person takes over a business or wants to create a business, will follow the rules and pay the money to have a sign designed.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're trying to find rules, but then the rules are not clear enough, or the commission denies the sign even though the rules have been followed. So although it's none of my business, I will just say to you that make sure that from a historic district standpoint, that that area is well defined so that people don't spend money needlessly. So let's keep moving.
Yeah. If I might, Mr. Chairman, as you set up the procedure, but I want to reintroduce Dana Burkhart, the town's consultant for the district.
I'm wondering why you're standing there.
He's actually handling the sign code at this point.
Oh, good luck. What I'd like to do, if nobody has any comments on the definitions, just skip straight to page 13. On the definitions? And you do too?
Prior to the definition?
Oh, okay.
Excuse me, Commissioner Schopel, if you'd put on your microphone, and you need to hit the button at the bottom until the light turns green.
150.092.
Yeah, there you go.
Now we got it.
Thank you.
In section 150.092, letter E, after signs built, it just sounds like it needs some wordsmithing to me. It just is not very clear when I read it. So that's just a general comment. Maybe you can clarify that for my benefit, what it really means. Dana?
Chairman,
Mr.
Commissioner
Burkhart?
Chappelle, absolutely. Let's read it together
Okay.
briefly here. To balance, so E reads, and this is part of the purpose and intent of scope and authority of the sign code. And the idea is to balance the rights of businesses and individuals to convey messages through signs against the aesthetics and safety hazards that come from the proliferation of sign clutter. So it's saying, hey, we're trying to balance our business sector and their rights and the ability to, be successful, as well as safeguard against aesthetics and the clutter and other visual undesirable impacts that signage has. So it's trying to say, well, we want businesses to thrive and have all the signage they need. However, we need to be respectful of the appearance that this has and on the aesthetics in our community.
Okay.
So that's the idea.
Okay. My next point is under B 1 and 2.
93, do you want to?
Yes, confusing wording. Again, 1 and 2 just kind of like throw me for a loop. I didn't quite understand what is implied.
Okay. So this is the applicability section?
Yes, correct.
Chairman, Commissioner, if I could, we'll just
Yeah,
read through
please.
them quickly. B reads, "The effect of this sign code, as more specifically set forth herein, is to prohibit all signs except, as permitted by the sign code." So it's saying very clearly, any signage in the community needs to be addressed in some manner in this code and comply with this code, and if it's not, then it's not permitted.
Okay.
In essence. So it's basically saying all signage in the community needs to be addressed or needs to comply with this code.
Okay.
And then secondly, to allow a variety of types of signs in the employment, commercial, and mixed-use districts, and a limited variety of signs in residential districts, subject to the content-neutral standard requirements and limitations. So it's saying, recognizing that both commercial operations, businesses, as well as residential have a need for signage, keeping in mind that, and the last line of that sentence is specific to the case law that was established by the Reed versus Gilbert. Basically it was a lawsuit that the Supreme Court ruled on in upholding religious freedoms and freedom of speech.
Well, for the lane.
So that's why we need to make sure all language is interpreted and administered by our staff in the town to be content neutral. And we always have to keep that in mind. Whatever a commercial business can do, a religious organization or freedom of speech can also have that type of sign.
Okay.
Or that placement, time, place, and manner of a sign. We can't be specific to what that content is.
Okay, but from a layman's point of view, a layman shouldn't need an attorney to, try to dissect the wording and try to get understanding out of it. It should be as simply phrased as possible. That just bothered me, the wording of that. Okay, let me move on. And 150.094, let's see here, what did I say? I think what you need to do in that sentence, this is my opinion from interpreting what it says, where it says shall, I think I would put colon there and then get rid of the rest of the wording of that sentence.
Mr. Schaffel, where are you?
Yeah, I'm on 150.094 under definitions. It's the first sentence under definitions.
Okay.
That sentence, I think, should stop at shall with a colon and then get rid of the rest of the sentence, because now you're going into the definitions. I don't think you need to. This is just a wordsmithing comment, that's all.
Shouldn't that be after the word apply?
Or shall apply and then colon.
Okay.
Just a comment.
The only thing I would add is from a administration standpoint, an interpretation standpoint, having that term. So these definitions are specific that we're about to get into, or that this is establishing, is very specific to signage and what it's saying, and not other components of the zoning code. Some terminology is used differently. Same terms might be used differently in the sign code as the rest of the code. And I can't think of an example off the top of my head.
This is the English language.
Yeah.
Code.
So it's basically saying, it's giving the administrator, or the interpreter, being the town, the ability to say, hey, unless this is supposed to be meaning something different, this is how this should apply to sign definitions or things.
I think basically this allows for interpretation.
Well, that's
Because
true.
not everything is, not and I don't have a specific example either, but just through experience, you're going to run across instances where somebody's thoughts or ideas about a sign that they want to propose does not necessarily fall into exactly the wording of what we list in the definition. So this provides the latitude for interpretation.
All right, I'll accept that, but with the caveat that I don't agree. Excuse me, but that's just my opinion.
There has to be some wiggle room. I understand what you're saying, sir, but there has to be some place where people can meet and talk and allow staff to have some wiggle room. I don't necessarily agree with the way it's applied right now, but I understand the need. I've been in situations where the hard, fast rule doesn't work. It doesn't get the job done. And the person on the other side of the table is completely literate in what he's reading and kill the whole project. Mm-hmm. So I understand the need. Maybe we can find a better way to allow ourselves some wiggle room in this thing.
It may be a better way to word it. We can work on that.
Take a look at it. Or if it's as simple as just putting the colon or a period after apply and leave it at that.
We could, that could be done, but I'm just afraid that I want to make sure that we leave some room for interpretation and/or negotiation.
Right.
Okay, that begs the question of, a law is a law, a code is a code, and if you want to massage it, then,
But not everything will fit into the same box.
Oh, I understand that.
Yeah.
Okay. Then I'm ready to go into definition.
Actually, it just to bring it better into context, even though we view it as the rules, it's an ordinance. And interpretation, people interpret things a different way depending on their mindset. So all we're doing, or all I'm asking, along with you, is that we build into this enough wiggle room that people can express themselves without feeling trapped.
Okay.
We're actually do have a kind of an example of that. We're dealing with it right now. On the Burger King remodeling, they want to get rid of that tall sign that's out there. They didn't necessarily want to get rid of it. They wanted to add a digital, electronic digital reader panel to it. And our code right now doesn't allow them to do it. And so we look out at what's happened out on the highway, and there are 3 competitors of theirs who have that in there. So their only recourse is a variance. Their competitors went through different rationale or reasons that they got theirs out there, but there was no real latitude. Our code doesn't allow it. It just allows it for churches and schools, basically. Now, this code update will allow it in some form, but they're having to go through a variance right now. And so, we didn't have necessarily the degree of interpretation latitude to just write that one off for them. But in the meantime, though, what's nice about it is they're cutting the sign in half, they want to do a nice monument sign. The town gets something out of it.
Right.
And, as part of that discussion. So there'll be additional improvement on that particular site.
Thanks for your explanation.
What makes the difference of Burger King over on this side of town and the signs out here on 79 that are all digital? I don't understand.
Well, that's my point, is the ones on 79 went through a variance. One of them went through a variance. One of them was, in my mind, approved without authority because during a moratorium that was put in place during this rewrite, the moratorium was specifically worded for the message neutral discussion that we just had, but somebody took the latitude to just go ahead and permit it. One was that was listed as a monument sign and was permitted as a monument sign. The digital panel was installed and against the code. It wasn't allowed. So we have history of those going out there, and none of them were based on interpretive powers within the code itself. So unfortunately, Burger King got caught. At the same time, though, they're very willing to do it because of what the end product is going to be.
It wasn't a location thing, it was
It was a hiccup, right. And we try to, and so we try to build latitude in a code without building in the ability to violate it. We have to look at intent. The intent is to support the businesses, and in this, that's one of the areas, for example. Find a way to support the businesses, to put them on an even platform with each other so that one does not have a competitive advantage over another. And sometimes interpretation is the only way you can get there.
Just remember, people who are applying for a sign are going to come before us. And if we don't allow ourselves some room for interpretation, we may very well find ourselves denying somebody a sign that we all know should have passed, but unfortunately, that's exactly right.
Right.
So,
And right now,
to live with.
and just to clarify, there are certain parameters at which we can approve certain signage at staff level.
Right.
But let's say another Safeway Plaza came in, or something similar to that. That was a sign package. That comes through Planning Commission. And depending on, what's being proposed, they may or may not be able to meet the letter of the code. That type of language provides the flexibility for the Planning Commission to approve the sign package.
Okay, let's move along.
Let's go page by page, or what do you want to do?
Mr. Schappel, do you have more?
Well, I'm going into definitions now with everyone else. I have a few comments about some of the wording in the definitions. I have a couple of concerns.
All right, and please proceed.
Okay. Under the term banner, from time to time you see in towns where they have celebration notifications that hang across the street. Go from telephone pole to telephone pole across the street. I don't see any reference in the sign code that mentions anything about, unless I missed it somewhere,
No,
denies that to be a possibility, or is that persona non grata?
Okay, keep in mind that the sign code, as is the entire development code, applies to private property. The banners that are across the street or on public property are handled elsewhere within the town codes. And those are permitted for special events. The town is responsible for putting them up, taking them down. As far as the anchor points, they always go in the same location, things of that nature. Those are on public property and that's a whole different.
That's a town issue.
Right, that's a town issue.
Okay.
Right.
I didn't know.
I have a comment on allowable sign area. And this relates when sign area is actually a defined term. So I think we probably should put in there the total sign area, capitalized, permitted for all non-exempt signs, so that it refers to the definition of what area means when we're talking about sign area.
Yeah.
Add sign in between total and area?
Yeah.
So add the word sign in there and capitalize sign and area since it's a defined term.
Very good.
That's all I had on page 3.
I have one on page 3. Under the beacons, I don't see any mentioning in there about flashing lights. There are signs that have flashing lights, but I don't see any reference to that being possible or being approved.
Okay, to keep in mind that these are just the definitions of different things.
Okay.
As far as what's allowable or approvable would be further back in the text.
Okay.
And that is here later that it is disallowed, flashing signs are
Right.
disallowed.
Okay, I
Not under,
missed that.
but
then.
not under definitions. That's
No.
just,
Okay.
Moving on. Comments on page 4. I'll keep moving. We're burning daylight. Page 5.
yes, I have one similar comment under directional sign. The last sentence there reads, directional signs shall not exceed 6 square feet. And I again added, in sign area and 3 feet in height. Just to clarify what that
And sign
that
area.
means.
Sign area is capitalized.
Yeah.
In sign area and 3 feet in height.
Square feet in sign area is what I added.
Okay, page 6.
My comment on the top one there, flag, and it relates to the second part, which contains a non-commercial message as defined herein. But then when I turn to page 28, it talks about under subdivisions, Part B, subdivision identification flags may be placed on or behind the property line of the subdivision. And those are obviously going to be a commercial sign, so I don't think the definition complies with what we have for a use of flag by subdivisions. When we disallow, when it contains one edge or pole, or which contains a non-commercial message, because that's obviously going to be a commercial message if it's used in subdivision to advertise for them.
So perhaps unless otherwise permissible by this code?
Something needs to be changed
Right.
there to make more, our definition conforms to our use of it.
That would do it.
So it's saying, hey, something else is applied. It specifically says it's advertising a subdivision. Usually they don't have their own sign. They'll just
There'll be
put
red
a
flags
white
or something.
flag or an American flag to attract people to the location.
But we could add that language at the end of that
Right,
sentence that basically
so-
says, as unless otherwise permitted in this code.
Yeah.
I had a question vis-à-vis someone along the road with a car or a van and a table selling honey and has a sign somewhere, buy your honey here, or selling oranges.
That would be an illegal use to begin with.
Okay, so that would have to be policed by the police?
Well, we see that out in the county, but I don't.
See it in the county islands all the time, yeah.
Well, we see it along Hunt Highway, and that's
That-
part of,
Most of that's in the county.
pardon me?
Majority of Hunt Highway is still in Pinell County and not inside the town limits.
Okay, we're talking
Yeah.
about inside the town.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And it could be illegal and just not enforced, possibly.
Yeah. Yeah, and that happens everywhere. That's not, that's not just here.
Okay,
And honey pollen's really good for your allergies. You know.
okay.
Yeah. Again, you get into a latitude kind of thing. You go to the end of Butte Road, and anybody who knows about it, there's fresh vegetables down there.
Yeah.
And, that's just a illegal sign.
Okay.
But, and I don't want to find out somebody ran down there and gave them a hard time. It's just,
It just is that maybe a point of information right now as far as enforcement of this or any other code that the town has. It's based on complaints.
good.
Okay.
And I didn't hear you complain.
I'm not complaining.
Yeah.
I want my fresh
Or
vegetables.
life safety issues.
Yes, it is.
Well,
And her husband's bigger than I am. Okay, moving right along. Anything more on page 6? Let's keep going, or we'll be here sending out for pizza. Page 7. Page 8.
Yes.
Okay.
Linear distance here, and then later on page 11, there's a thing called radius distance, both of the definitions really read Greek to me, just in trying to figure it out. I think it's basically, they're just trying to say the specified linear distance between two signs, but it takes a whole lot of wording to try to say that.
see if it's used.
So basically simplify.
Yeah, and radius distance, it almost seems like it's the same. I don't know why. I never could find radius distance used anywhere in the code.
And as we noted at the beginning of this, everything that's in black is in the current draft. I've never heard the term radius distance before related to
I
signs.
think we could
so-
probably
Actually,
strike
this brings
radius
back
distance.
memory for me, because we wrestled with this. This actually came out of the billboard people, the professional sign people. And I had never heard the term before either. And I got to think for a minute what it really meant, because I had to be
But
told.
billboards are prohibited in Florence,
Yes,
new billboards.
yeah.
So that may become moot.
And it could be for the purpose of measuring distances from other signs, because of the billboards were allowed and there was a separation requirement, and they're probably saying, hey, by the crow, where the crow flies versus
Right.
But those are currently prohibited
on
in
the
this code.
roadways.
And
Either way, it's not used anywhere in the
No.
code, so I just deleted it.
Yeah.
Okay.
That'll work.
And I'll give you, I will give you my packet, because I went through here and did a whole bunch of corrections on just other things that should be capitalized to conform.
Pick 'em up.
And I just wrote my note in there as well.
That would be appreciated. Thank you.
Okay, page 9.
Just one down on official sign. Any sign owned by or erected by or at the direction of the town in furtherance of the official duties of the town or other governmental agency. So it's erected by or at the direction of the town. What about ADOT? Because ADOT controls a big corridor through here. I think that I don't know that they come for us for permission to do stuff.
No, they have no, or we have no jurisdiction over ADOT.
We probably should put the language in there to allow them to do that too without being in non-conformance with our.
They deal with the right-of-way of their highway.
Right.
It's just within,
I would think that their regulations on ADOT are safer than ours over the highway.
they do. So I just wanted to make sure this conforms with it. So it's
Yeah.
not like we're.
We'll bounce this one off of legal counsel, just to see.
It's just a question because I don't see it there. That's it on that page for me.
Okay. Page 10.
I had one under projected / suspended sign. The last wording there says minimum clearance distance between the bottom of the sign and the sidewalk, where there'll always be a sidewalk. I don't know that.
That's true.
Projected suspended sign, the definition.
Bottom of the side, or from the bottom of the sign and the sidewalk and/or
Something.
adjacent, yeah,
Use the word grade.
yeah,
So my question was, I don't know, there's always going to be a sidewalk, so I wanted to.
Right.
Bottom of the sign and grade.
yeah,
And grade is a defined term, too.
right. Okay.
That's it for me.
Anyone else? Moving along, page 11.
Same comment under shingle sign, the last word there is sidewalk, between the bottom of the sign and the sidewalk.
Should we probably say grade adjacent to the building?
Well,
Because a shingle or projecting sign is going to be attached to a building.
On the sign. Same thing. Got to have 8 feet or somebody will walk into it.
Chairman, Commissioners, I've just added or finished grade,
yeah, that's fine.
Yes.
Okay.
because it's directly below the sign, so it's one of the two.
That's good.
What was the other definition that also had that similar?
Shingle sign
Sign
and
and
projected
suspended sign. Oh, you're doing well. You're making amendments as we talk, so we'll have to slow down just a little bit.
Keep talking, I won't slow you
Where,
down.
where we can, yeah.
Fast. And then I have a suggestion on the sign definition, the new definition there. I appreciate that it was all filtered down, that was good, but I added any visual communication, including appurtenances, which is used to attract the attention of the public when the display is visual beyond the boundaries of the property. Just because
I like that.
I'm talking about the base of the sign and other things that may not be considered a sign, but I think it's still part of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's all one unit.
Well,
That's it for me on that page.
anyone else? Page 12.
Nothing for me.
Nothing for me.
Very good. Page 13.
Up at the very top, where that, it's the time and temperature sign. The last part of that will not exceed 15 square feet, and I added again in sign area, a defined term.
Where are you?
Right here. Top of page 13.
Oh, I see it.
It starts at the bottom of page 12, carries over to 15. The change would be at the in sign area, capitalized sign and area.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then under wall sign, I think we just need to change the wording. It says a sign that is attached parallel but within 6 inches of the wall. And I put a sign that is attached parallel to and within 6 inches of the wall. I think but is not the term to use there.
Limits
And then under exemptions down there, official signs, holiday decorations, I just had to chuckle because it said, not installed earlier than 30 days before the holiday. I'm already seeing Christmas stuff up.
Yeah.
And that's one of those that, again, this was in that earlier draft. Typically, you see Christmas decorations on or about Thanksgiving weekend, but yeah, I've seen some go up already. So we can leave it at 30, we can put it at 45, or we could just not care.
Well, you could be consistent with political signs, too. They can only be up a certain time. Once the election's over, they got to come
60,
down.
well, that's 60 days for political signs.
Hmm.
I guess some people consider Christmas political these days.
I just chuckled. I don't have a recommendation on because 30 days, this isn't enough.
No, that's not.
But it's,
My experience has been that's usually there for grossly out of code, signage where we're like, okay, it's
Did you hammer it?
July, we better enforce that code now. Those people clearly.
I had a friend in Oregon that with the Christmas tree went up Thanksgiving and it came down the first day of summer.
Wow. That's a fire.
And they threw a party at both occasions.
Okay. I'm just thinking, Christmas and Thanksgiving are more than 30 days apart. Are they?
They
years,
can be.
yes.
Yeah.
This year,
This year they are, but
This
some
year.
years they're not.
yeah.
Yeah,
I was going to say 45 days.
Thanksgiving is not a fixed.
And again, this is one of those areas that unless somebody goes totally off the deep end,
Yeah.
I can't imagine we'd even get a complaint on it,
holiday decorations.
45? 30's a little tight.
I don't know, the community's getting bigger.
We'll modify it. to
Well,
30.
I don't want somebody to do something to their front lawn too early and have somebody complain
Yeah.
and force the town to, that's just a big-ass black eye.
Yeah.
Why don't we give ourselves a little latitude there?
Why don't we ponder this one, and, because you're going to see this again in draft form before we even, think about public hearings, so.
All right, so
And we can check other communities and see what is done elsewhere.
I will
Good.
write the word ponder. Okay, page 13.
That's
Moving
all.
on to page, we're in exceptions. Anything more in exceptions? All right, I'm going to go section by section now rather than page by page. Do we have anything in exceptions? All right, 150.096, prohibited commercial signs. Do we have anything?
yes, I had a comment. Under inflatable signs, and the one I'm thinking about here is those dancing things that have the air going through them that go all over. The
Wacky wavy guys?
Yeah, I'd assume that would be an inflatable sign.
Yes.
And I see them all over, but we're saying they're absolutely prohibited.
Well, and that's your choice how you like to move forward. Again, this was the draft that we inherited. When those started showing up some years ago, and that's probably why it showed up in here, there was like a proliferation of them. But I'm finding out that as far as actual use, it seems to me it's more like for a special event, and primarily the car dealerships, more than anything else.
Occasionally you'll see them in something like a grand opening sale as well.
Yeah, and grand opening, we do allow pretty much the world.
Well, according to this, it's a verb.
Yeah.
It's 100%, it is prohibited. So I just bring that up because I see them being used, and I'd hate to think we back ourselves into a corner here on something that's,
Yeah.
What about why not add to this then, that statement, inflatable signs except as permitted for special events and grand openings?
Better.
That would be better, yeah.
Good catch.
It's kind of like the sign spinner guys. You notice a few years ago, they were everywhere. And now you barely even see one anymore. It was like a fad.
I'd hate to say we prohibited the Goodyear blimps. So. That's a blown-up sign, isn't it?
it's a big old sign.
Yeah, but it's not sitting on private property. I can find a loophole in anything. You give me.
Okay. All All right, prohibited sign locations, 150.097. Rather short. One of the problems we have had is with sandwich signs. You want to type that?
Right, those are addressed later on in the code.
Frame signs, yeah.
Okay. Well, the reason I asked that, I did see it later on in the code. But oh, now I got to get the page back.
Yeah, those went through a lot of,
Prohibited sign location.
yeah, they went through a lot of angst nationally, probably 10, 15 years ago, and most communities have settled on certain regulations for them, that they don't obstruct public sidewalks. They're not visually obstructive for traffic. Must have the name of the business and contact information. May not be, like chalkboard. They should be chalkboard type signs, things like
All right.
that. And I think that's the way this code is drafted to allow later on.
We went through quite a growing pains here
Mhm.
in Florence, probably a little more than a decade ago,
Right.
with those things. Okay, moving on, 150.098, standards, limitation, and requirements for all signs.
I do have a comment. Under subsection J, all non-exempt signs are subject to design review approval. Is that design review board? Is that us sitting as the design review board?
So there's two, you review larger projects and sign packages, and there's also, and you have to look at the design review
So that's
requirements and procedures
Staff?
in the zoning
There
code.
can be
and
staff,
there's
yes.
staff under like 5,000 square foot.
So that's a
small.
generic design review.
okay. Just wanted to make sure. So, and then just to follow up on that, for the historic district, does that mean there's two layers of approval there? One by the Historic District Advisory Commission and two by the design review?
In some cases, yes.
Okay, so I just wanted to clarify that there is, okay.
Is that right?
It can be. Yeah, the way I read the code, and again, this is where interpretation is our friend. The way I read the code for the historic district, depending on the nature of the sign, they could be the final approval. But appeal, goes to you guys, for example, goes to the planning commission. So it depends on the nature of the
got it.
application.
Any other comments under limitations and requirements?
I guess that spills over onto the next page, doesn't it?
Mhm.
Yes,
You do?
I do.
Okay, cool.
Under Part P, where it talks about the 25-degree, it says the first part, where it says that are part of the same sign structure and are not more than 25 degrees apart, the sign area shall be computed by the measurement of one of the faces. We probably need a clarifying sentence in there that if it's greater than 25, then both sign faces are going to count.
Okay. And we will be having graphics. There's some sample ones in the back. There will
I
be
saw
graphics.
this and I thought, well, we got it pictorially, we just don't have it verbally.
Yeah.
Just probably need to add that
Okay.
sentence in there.
Figure for P, this section,
Mm-hmm.
the title of it. And sorry, it should be in your packet too.
Yeah, it is.
Yes, it is associated with this section.
And we're still working on final graphics. We're plagiarism saves time. We're checking other codes, things like that, but we'd like to find a consistent graphic style to depict all of these. So that's being worked on.
Yeah, consistent keyword.
We just add that sentence and I think it clarifies it. So.
Any other comments? This is a long section.
And again, you always have another bite at this. There's something this time.
I had something that bothered me, and I'll be damned if I can find it. 150.100, signs for residential districts.
We forgot
We skipped 99.
150.099.
I missed it, sorry.
Bottom
Page 18, bottom of the page.
Page 18.
Wow, went a long way. Find what I was looking for. Yep, you're right. 150.099, signs for employment, commercial, and mixed-use districts. I thought that was a long chapter.
Yes, I do.
There it is, window signs. You've cut back the amount of material that can be present in a window from 50 to 25%. Under C, I'm sorry.
It's a suggestion for consideration. That's one of the more common complaints that I've had over the years. And Mr. Burkhardt also, certain types of businesses, they end up, you can't even see inside the business because all it ends up being is a big sign and therefore, for lack of a more technical term, trashy. It compromises the aesthetic quality. So a lot of communities have gotten quite restrictive on window sign area. It's, but it's up to you on which way you like to proceed with it, of course.
Related, if I can, to that, on page 30, where it's exceptions permits are not required, under D, and it's also coincidentally duplicated under F for some reason. It says it's okay to have adhesive or painted signs on windows with no limitation. Doesn't that work against, with one area we say they can only have 25%, and here they say as long as they're willing to paint it on or stick it on, then there's no limitation.
Well, again, I can't specifically answer the rationale because this was in the older draft. We could look at that again.
Well, I'm looking at it though, and the way it reads says as long as it's meeting other provisions of the code and where that.
Okay.
So we don't require a permit for you to go stick your poster on your sign or have some guy come by and paint your graphic.
Okay.
But we do regulate how much of that window or how much of all the windows on one building face can be covered, and that's 25% versus
Okay.
50%.
Okay, as long as that
That makes
like
sense.
that, then we're good.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Simmons had a...
Yeah, I have a comment on, under A, on page 19. It shall be unlawful to construct or maintain a sign in a employment or commercial district. That should read an employment or commercial district.
Oh, yeah.
Do that all the time. Thank God I got a daughter.
I have another one that's a couple pages down too, so.
Like that? Good.
No, it's, the next one's not just like that.
Okay.
Where was it?
The first one was under A on page top of page 19.
I got that one. Right, but then you said you had another one?
Well, the other one that I had was on page 22. There's a heading H with no content.
There is.
You're absolutely right.
Chairman and commissioners, would you mind if we term that? So we changed business because business was a new definition for the code.
Right.
Where in the zoning code and the district specifically identify employment/commercial districts. So that's why it's just easier to keep it.
Well,
what it's
no,
consistently
that's
used.
not the question. It
So
should be-
what I'm getting at is that can we just like the title of this ordinance, that should also include mixed use as well. So what I'd like to do is
Oh.
employment/commercial and mixed use. Because that's how it's to apply, and we didn't catch that and mixed use part in there. Does that,
As
so now
far-
we're
but
being
as far
very
as leading-
consistent with the zoning ordinance and how it identifies employment/commercial districts and mixed-use districts. Those are official terms used for our zoning districts, and how we categorize them in the zoning, in the development code.
Oh,
Does that make sense?
great.
So just
Okay.
like the title's correct, 150.099. It being technically driven here, I'd prefer to just be consistent. Does that sound good?
Yes.
Yes.
capitalize those as well.
Are we still on 099?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Under wall signs on page 19. And now this just probably is going to need some education on my part. Wall signs, part B, number 1. The second sentence there says, a minimum cumulative sign area of 16 square foot shall be permitted.
Mhm.
And I came to understand that magic number when you look later, if it's less than 16 square feet, you don't need to permit it. On page 30, it's exempt, it says. And I'm just wondering why.
Square root of 16 is 4. So a 4 by 4 requires a permit, anything less does not.
Well, except that if it was, an electrical sign of any kind, if it was illuminated, it would require a permit.
All right.
So maybe the flaw is actually in the exemptions.
So the only purpose I see that is to, that provision is to say, hey, if your lineal footage of your lot or unit is less than 16 lineal feet, then you're guaranteed a minimum of 16 lineal
Right.
feet.
That's the intent, right?
Does that make sense? So the maximum cumulative of all wall signs shall be calculated 1 foot of sign area per lineal foot of building frontage. Or we also looked at as business frontage when we're looking at comprehensive sign plans, because you'll have several businesses in line maybe.
I like the way you're saying it, just write it like that here.
You don't have to fix
Okay.
it right now.
So somebody like me doesn't misinterpret it.
Right.
I agree.
No.
I like the way you're saying that you're guaranteed something.
Yeah,
So
more than, you got a 10-foot
yeah,
building.
rather than
More than
I got 10
feet.
foot of frontage, I gotta have a dinky little sign. But as long as I say that, I get 16,
Mhm.
that's good. That helps some of our downtown area that it might be narrow businesses
Older,
there.
narrow
Yeah.
units.
And then towards the bottom of that page, I had some questions under 4, 5, 6, and 7, and that's with the use of the words may and the word shall. Like 4, I like wall signage may be located on any building elevation. I like that. And then 5, wall signage shall not exceed. I can understand that because it gets crazy. Then in 6, wall signs may not extend above or beyond the wall or roof
That
line.
should be shall.
Should be a shall, I think.
Yeah.
And then number 7, wall signs may be internally or, that one's okay, I think.
Mhm.
And then on 8, wall signs
Shall not be-
yeah.
may not be, I think it's probably, should be a shall there, right?
Right. Good catch.
And again, there on window signs, is may the correct word on the first line of that one? May not exceed?
Should be
Is it
shall.
shall not? I mean,
For shall, if it's a hard
Yeah.
number.
yeah, if you're going to put a number there, it probably needs to be shall. Then I guess the debate is if it's 50% or 25% or some other magic number.
Well, we'll double check some other codes. See what the
Please
the
do,
common
but
denominator is.
I don't know about for the others, but for me, it's difficult to visualize. I can understand not wanting more than half a window covered. But 25% of it, it may be a narrow storefront where there's not a lot of window to start with. So your open sign may,
Those are not calculated against your sign area.
okay.
Things like open, closed, directionals, things like that. Yeah, these would be more advertising and of course, regardless, we know that, for example, the fast food restaurants and convenience stores violate these religiously. No matter what number you put in there, we run into that issue.
Right.
So it's a matter then, how radically or effectively are we going to be able to enforce it anyway? But then again, if we said you can fill up your whole window, are we?
I get it.
That's one of those weird areas. So let us look at some other codes and see if there's a common denominator out there.
Okay. Any other comments?
I'm good.
Mr. Frost, we're good? Temporary signs.
Oh, I guess I do have some work, so we're going section by section, sorry. On page 20, under freestanding signs, subsection D. And this is just, I hadn't heard the term used before, so I'll just throw it out just in case. The last line of part 1 there refers to wrapped pylon signs. And just want to make sure that we all know what a wrapped pylon sign is. And if it needs clarification, because I'm not quite
I'm
sure.
not sure I have an answer for you. Again, this was in the old draft.
Just wrapped around?
The only thing I can think of is something that's not rectilinear or square, and it would be some type of a round pylon that they would be, like a auto, like you get a wrap on your truck.
That's what I wondered, that was what I thought, but I just wanted to make sure that
I don't know.
So,
I would have to.
Take the street light and wrap a sign around it, but that's public domain.
We'll look in to make sure that there is a clear
Yeah.
term used in the industry, so we know what that is. If it's confusing, we'll.
and might need to add that to the definitions of what wrapped means, just to clarify it.
Or it might just go away altogether.
Yeah. And then under sign height, that next section there, 2A, first line, shall not exceed 15 feet. And I, just so that it works with the definitions, I put above grade, so they know what the 15-foot measurement is. Then about the third or fourth line down, it's again 10 feet in height. Again, I put above grade. And the very last there, it says not exceed 8 feet in height. Again, I added above grade, with grade capitalized.
Chairman, Commissioner Frost, or Vice Chair Frost, let me double check our height measurement definition in the development code, so we don't
So they're
create
consistent.
an inconsistency.
Yeah.
Height definitely needs to be in there. As it's measured, we should make sure that, because when we look at height, we'll go look at building height, or how height is calculated in the definitions. And
Yep.
if that already talks, it usually does say from adjacent grade within 6 feet or something like that, or when adjacent to the right of way, the crown of the road, or there's a lot of different ways height's been calculated over the years. We'll look into that.
There's a lot of ways to cheat.
I kind of have a question myself on this one, though, and that's with B. Do you recall, Mr. Chairman, some discussion regarding why there's a maximum on a sign base? If you have a monument sign and somebody's doing something decorative?
I wondered that same thing.
Yeah,
also.
that didn't make, I've seen a lot of really nice-looking signs, monument-based, that meet the square footage, but they're, wider than 10 feet. It might stair step up.
Well,
Or can you have two sign bases?
after 10 feet, you're on your way to a billboard.
Well, not the sign area. This is just the monument base.
Still, 10 feet is one hell of a base.
Yeah, but if it's, laid out of brick or some type of stone configuration and it becomes an architectural element, I mean, I just didn't know where that came from.
I was
Didn't know if
thinking
you
about
recalled.
And what made me think of is a monument sign going into, XYZ subdivision. That might be 15 feet long and very nice lettering, but it would be out of
Well,
compliance.
actually, that's handled separately.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Okay.
That's what my mind came to when I thought about that, though.
Yeah.
Freestanding sign.
I've seen some that have actually two bases, that columns will come up and then
They
come
merge
down.
somehow.
So you have two bases.
Interpretation. Yeah, I don't know.
Want to look at that one when you ponder it? When you're pondering?
I have an old, I'll try to do this for you at some upcoming meeting. I have an old PowerPoint presentation that takes actual signs that have been constructed around the valley and show how they've been designed, what's calculated as area, you know, kind of maybe give you some
Learning curve.
perspective.
Yes,
Yeah.
very difficult to imagine.
Mhm.
Well, and keep in mind, if you're getting, if a project comes in that has a base that needs to be, with signage package, with a base that needs to be bigger than 10 feet, it's probably going to be a large residential subdivision or commercial development of some sort, you know, the cinema. They're probably going to come in with a PAD, and the PAD
could
allows a
handle
lot of flexibility, as well as comprehensive, the way we wrote the comprehensive sign plan or package also allows for discretion to exceed the basic standards that are set forth
All right.
otherwise. So you do have some flexibility to consider alternatives. That caught me when I read it originally, and I thought, okay, but
Now,
You've got
let's say I
latitude.
take the beginning of Merrill Ranch, the wall,
right.
and there's sign on the wall, okay? So I wouldn't consider that wall to be a base. It's simply a wall that has a sign on it.
The sign area is
If
actually
I
measured.
come along and put a
angle.
sign on top of that wall, now I've got a base.
Yeah,
So that may have been the thinking behind that limitation. That the wall, you know, we had a lot of proposed subdivisions at that time. No, not 3 years ago. Not 3 years ago.
But a while back.
Yeah.
And under sign area, had just another, a sign area, part A, the maximum, again, I put capitalized sign area,
Hmm.
just to refer to that definition. And then on the next page, paragraph 5, freestanding well, I can't even talk. Freestanding signs shall maintain a linear distance of at least 200 feet, so that we refer back to our definition. So I scratched linear there and pushed it over to linear distance, since it's a defined term.
Chairman, Vice Chair, I deleted that term because it didn't pop up anywhere in the code. We might continue to see things written that way.
No, you should have
So
you should
either-
have deleted radius distance. That's what it doesn't show up anywhere.
Linear distance doesn't show up either unless we start making this change that you're talking about. But I searched it, it's not otherwise in.
Maintain the
Oh,
distance
okay.
of at least 200
Do you care, or do you have a preference?
on the same parcel.
And I just put linear distance.
Definition
'cause
back in and change-
Somewhere I figure somebody's going to want to say the minimum distance between these two signs, a linear distance, is going to need to be, or maximum 150 feet, and we better
Right.
have it defined in there somewhere.
But do you
So-
have a preference? Linear seems pretty straightforward in any context,
I'm good with it, as long as it conforms.
in my opinion, or we could put it back and
As long as it conforms and it's workable
like
for you
that would-
guys, are going to have to do it.
could open us up. And the other one you said wasn't used, was it radial distance?
Radius distance.
Radius distance, okay,
In definitions, that's the one I couldn't find anywhere.
okay. Okay, go ahead. Radius is used once, and that's the only place.
And linear distance I could kind of think about, and it made this sense to me, but radius distance didn't, because it's still linear if it's a radius. And then under part 9, the last part of that says, and provide a minimum amount of plant material equal to 35% of the required enhanced landscape area. And then that also refers to stuff on page 27, under part 8 there, and provide them a minimum amount of plant material equal to 35. I couldn't figure that one out.
I apologize, Vice Chair, which term was that, or?
It's on page 21, under subsection 9.
Then again.
Says freestanding sign placement shall include enhanced landscape. It's a new red paragraph.
Oh, yes, sorry.
And the last part of that says, and provide, and you have to put the word "a" in there as well, and provide a minimum amount of plant material equal to 35% of the required enhanced landscape area. I read that several times and still not quite sure what it means.
Yeah, that does need a clarification.
So enhanced landscape area shall be in addition to the minimum required landscaping of this code. So all projects have a minimum requirement for landscaping. Now you want a freestanding sign. We want to enhance that area and make, and enhance the landscaping. So it establishes enhanced landscape in that second sentence, and it says that enhanced area will be 35% more material.
As opposed to what, though? I guess I'm not understanding it either.
Yeah, just wordsmith that a little bit.
Landscape material as opposed to granite, or?
Granite could be used as a landscape
Yeah.
material, so.
Yeah, I'm not.
Well, we were referring back to the landscape code. To the landscape requirements. I'll take a look at the code and make sure they're consistent, or
You're saying that
look at it. Do you like the idea of having
if I have 100 square feet of landscaping, and I put this sign up, now I need 135 square feet of landscaping?
I don't think that's the intent.
Yeah, this just,
at the
okay.
I don't know.
My point is well taken.
Yeah.
I should have looked
Needs
at this.
clarified.
clarify for you?
35% of the way that I've been reading it is 35% of the area of the sign base. So if your sign base can't exceed 10 feet, then you need 3.5 feet worth of plant material
All the way around it.
all the way around. But I agree with you. I agree with you both that it could use some wordsmithing.
That's four
Yeah.
interpretations I've heard.
I like the way you just said that,
did
actually.
too.
That was good.
An administrator over here.
Yeah.
That's great.
Okay. So everybody helped me make my point on that one, so we're good there.
Yeah, but it's repeated again on page 27.
27,
Note
same
that
stuff.
there, too.
27, part 8 there, same languages there.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, if I might, still on page 21, 11A, that's one I would suggest reconsidering. Again, digital signs shall only be allowed on sites over 1 acre. That seems kind of large. For your, typical convenience store, service station, or fast food restaurant, they're going to be usually smaller than an acre. They'll run into about the 25 to 30,000 square foot range.
Just
And
strike
we
it.
know they're going to ask for digital signs.
Just strike it. Do we even need it?
I'm just thinking, just strike it altogether.
11A
On page 21, we're still on
What are
21.
those signs I see like on Interstate 10, almost like a TV sign? What are they called?
Those are billboards.
Those are
aren't they?
those are electronic billboards, and those, ADOT has very strict controls over, even on private property, on how those can be placed and located. And again, we don't have freeways here until maybe the north-south, if it ever happens. My recommendation is still to maintain the current code prohibition against billboards. So, whether it's an electronic billboard or a static billboard.
But I think to Gary's question, though, that still is a digital sign by our definition.
Yes.
So that would qualify as a digital sign.
Yeah,
Even
it
though it's a
would.
billboard.
But it's a billboard, which are prohibited.
Well, it doesn't have to be a gazillion feet long. It could be the size of a TV.
Billboards are defined as off-premise.
Digital sign.
Oh, digital, yeah. So I'm not sure.
Then I'm not sure what a digital sign is. I guess that's where I'm
Yeah,
going.
well, okay,
Define.
Yeah.
yeah. But it's basically a electronic message board that has certain requirements for display, so that not like a marquee that lights that are continually running. They have to be stationary for so many seconds. The transition from one message to another is a minimum of, I can't remember if it's 1 or 2 seconds, 1 second. And the reason for that is if you have a running display, it is very distractive to drivers because they're going to get mesmerized trying to read the message rather
I
than
get
paying
that
attention to the
part,
drawing.
yeah.
So, but yeah, digital signs can be a variety of different sizes. We are looking at being somewhat specific in our code on how big they should be. But yeah, the large ones you see on the freeway are considered digital signs. That's why you notice that they do a fade in, fade out transition. And
I agree with your comment. We shouldn't prohibit them just because
Oh, no.
the size is less than an acre. So
Right.
I think A should be struck as you're suggested.
yeah, I would just strike A.
Oh, wait a minute now, we have a church on Main Street.
Those are allowed currently.
That base of that sign, a digital sign?
Yes, that's allowed under the current code.
But they're not on 1 acre.
I know. No, that's actually, I might even be larger than an acre. That's a pretty big property, but I agree. That's why I'm suggesting we strike that from here, that there is no minimum size. It depends on the type of use.
Okay, when you said strike it, I thought you were just getting rid of A and keeping B.
Omit A and
No, we are definitely keeping B. I was suggesting getting rid of A. So that you don't attach a minimum site area.
they're not very historic.
Right.
I wouldn't be appropriate in a historic district.
No,
So this,
historic district, but
so would the church's sign be legal non-conforming if this were adopted like this? It's in the historic district?
It's not in the historic district.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
No, but if we adopted it like this, and let's say the sign, that church is smaller than 1 acre, then it would be a non-conforming sign.
right.
And I don't think we want to do that.
That's like Taco Bell.
I agree.
Yeah, so I'm saying just strike A altogether.
Okay, fine. It's outside of the historic district.
Right. No, we still leave the one in there, digital signs are prohibited in the historic district. That stays.
Yeah.
You wouldn't get it past the historic commission anyway.
I wouldn't want to be the one to present it to them.
Right. Okay, moving right along.
My next comment's on page 23. We're still in the same area.
Yes, we are, we haven't
Still
changed.
have this,
That's about middle of the page, subsection small letter E.
Grand opening.
For grand openings, the maximum banner size shall be 48 square feet and shall be limited to 3 per street frontage of the business. So if I got a business with 2 frontages on street, so you can have 3 on one side and 3 on the other, 6 signs.
48 square feet each?
So as long as I keep it under 48 square feet, I can have six signs?
That's the way the current draft was, yeah.
Wow, that just seems like
It
that's
seems like overkill.
overkill, yeah.
Yeah.
But if that's,
A lot. Usually you would say 1 per street frontage,
that's,
because if you can't see 1, is there a lineal distance for the lot? I
No.
could see if the lot's greater than 300 lineal feet in frontage width, or something like that, but that would be weird.
Maybe that'd be the way to do it, have a minimum separation. And that way a larger property could possibly have up to 3. Again, I'm thinking the Safeway Plaza up on Highway.
so I just seemed,
Fix.
on the previous page, did you eliminate the subsection, subparagraph?
I will.
It was H,
Okay. hang on one second.
Be on page 22.
be on page 22.
You know, typically, these banners are given by
They're floating in.
the supplier
Right.
trying to get his product out, whether it's Budweiser or whatever. Not that it has to be a bar.
and if it's a large business, I could see 3, but if it's a small one, it's just,
Mhm.
I don't know, maybe it's self-policing. It might just look too goofy, but it's just kind of strange the way it read, so.
We'll take a look at that and make sure we clarify. It's got some
There,
consequences.
there needs to be a time limit on banners. I don't remember reading it later on.
Oh, for grand openings and special events?
Yeah.
It's yeah.
Excuse me?
There's 60
Did you
days.
find it?
Yeah, it's paragraph B.
Considered a temporary sign, banners, pennants, and
Oh, yeah.
bottom of 22. Bottom of 22. For a maximum period of 60 days.
And then the top of 20,
Opening in the
Oh, I
top of
remember the 60
23.
days, yeah.
right? And the top of 23, then handle special events.
30 consecutive days, yeah.
60 days is a long time for a banner.
And then right here's another one.
That's your one-time new business allowance.
But this is special events. Whereas
A is,
days is
Grand opening
openings.
or
Yeah.
grand reopening.
to the grand opening. 2 months of banners, they don't last that long and they look like hell. I'd move that back down to 30 days if they don't know they're there by then.
Yeah.
That's what I got.
Actually, I think 30 days is pretty common, too, as far as other communities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
be consistent with the
Yeah.
next section.
And who keeps track? I mean, if it's up there for 2 months. We've had the same thing here on Main Street. Banners are across Cocapelli were there for months. And it does look like hell. Cocapelli's the building that burned down.
Yeah. What banner? I'm not,
Budweiser.
oh,
Because if they're up for too long, especially around here, they get sun faded.
it's unfaded and beat up from the wind.
Right.
Yes, my next comment's on page 23 at the bottom, A-frame signs. And it just seems like this is confusing to me. The first reads, A-frame signs must be located on site or along the immediately adjacent right-of-way. And then the second sentence contradicts that. Signs placed off-site shall be a minimum of. So the first sentence says it's got to be on-site, and then the second sentence says that the ones you place off-site.
Yeah. Maybe rather than off-site, but in the right-of-way, or in the public right-of-way.
Well, the right-of-way is usually 10, 15 feet if it's an arterial where a commercial business would be located.
They just have to conform.
Signs placed.
One sign given.
Oh,
the other sign.
I see yeah. The first sentence of that must be located on-site or along the immediate adjacent right-of-way. Signs placed on the immediate adjacent right-of-way shall be a minimum of 3 feet behind the curb or edge of pavement.
Okay.
Yeah.
Signs
That-
placed. Okay,
that's-
got it.
Is that what you're looking for? Yeah.
Along the immediate adjacent right away, yeah.
It's placed.
Right.
There was much heartburn over that.
And on the top of the next page, under small g, A-frame signs should not be located in parking aisles or parking stalls or medians.
Shall.
Is that a shall or a should?
That should be a shall.
It'd be a shall, okay. And then on section 3, small letter A, just below that, one sign may be posted on the lot or parcel where the construction or repair will be conducted. The sign area, not face, shall be a maximum strike area maximum of 32 square feet and a maximum height of 8 feet above grade.
And sign area would be capitalized.
Yes. Did you get all that? Want me to repeat that?
Yes. Getting there.
So I think that sentence should read, the capital sign, capital area, not face, shall not have, but use B, a maximum strike area of 32 square feet and a maximum height of 8 feet above grade, with grade capitalized. Just to conform it with the definitions.
Okay, so let's keep moving. Completes that section, 150.100, signs for residential districts.
I would comment under wall signs, under B.
B?
Number 1, wall signs shall be placed upon community buildings within residential subdivisions. You have commercial subdivisions here?
Yes.
You will, but the topic.
We already do.
Residential
Okay,
districts.
so I put residential subdivisions, so just to make sure there was no,
Yeah, the Safeway out there is all, that's subdivided.
I know it's part of that subsection, but I just added it in there just so it was clarified. And then under 2, the maximum cumulative, since it's a defined term, sign area.
Let me add something to 1, I'm sorry
Oh,
to
that's good.
interrupt. Unless required by law, there are people that have to have signage on their private residence. For instance, a real estate broker. Anyone entering his home has to know he's a real estate broker. Yeah, I know, everybody does that, but this is the truth. I had to have it on my house, that's how I know. And there are other professions as well that the law requires, even though the signage can be small, but it has to be on their private residence. So I would add, how did I do that?
Unless required by law.
Yeah, unless required by law. Okay, you were saying.
Did you get that? Part 2. The maximum cumulative sign area capitalized.
Yep.
And there's that sentence that we talked about fixing earlier, minimum cumulative sign area of 6 square feet shall be permitted. What came up under another section? And then turning the page under Part 8, subsection 8, wall signs may not be digital. Just wondered if may is the right word there.
Yeah, it should be shall.
Okay. And then to conform under subsection C, freestanding or monument signs, the way they're in the definitions, when we refer to collectors and arterials, they're called arterial roadways instead of streets under definitions. So it's arterial roadway frontage instead of street frontage, and collector roadway frontage. We conform to definitions.
That was arterial,
Yeah.
And under your defined terms, they're called arterial roadways and collector roadways, not streets. I guess I'd have to change the definition or change it here, one of the two.
Do we have any mention of someone who might have the sign "Beware of Dog"? The window?
We pretty much don't, control those.
Okay.
I suppose if they put up one that was, 187 square feet, somebody might get irritated. But I think, basically that's, kind of like an enter, exit, beware of dog, no solicitors,
Yeah, if Sears
We
didn't
really
make it,
don't.
I don't need it.
Yeah,
Property protected by ADT security.
Yes.
or Smith & Wesson.
Okay.
I'm noticing more and more no parking signs in front of somebody's house that's in the, I understand it's the right-of-way. Property line stops here, you have the right-of-way, then you have the sidewalk in the street. More and more no parking signs that people are putting in that. Isn't that city?
If it's on our right-of-way, they're basically illegal signs. You'll see that even on private property, like in a shopping center, where somebody will try to reserve 3 signs for thus and such dry cleaners. There's no legal basis for those. That's up to, nobody can enforce it. They try to tow your car, you can sue. But things like that being put, somebody trying to preserve or reserve parking in front of their house, for example, things like that, no, that's not allowed. That's public right-of-way, it's free parking. If you're seeing that, I haven't noticed it, but
Just today I saw two. One's been there for a while, I know. The other
in front of somebody's house, or, really?
Now, are they
down on
traffic
Orlando-
signs?
Down on Orlando Street, south end of town.
Really? Interesting.
Is it a city-owned sign or city place sign, or do you think it's,
It's a plastic no parking sign stuck on a stick and stubbed in the ground.
yeah, and if it's in the right-of-way, that would,
And is this
would
one
usually
of
do
these
enforcement.
cases where you have sidewalk and then 20 feet of right-of-way, and then finally the property starts, and they probably fed up with people using the front of their house as a parking lot?
Yeah.
I don't disagree. I had the same problem here before the Padilla Park was put in, where they used Padilla Park as a public parking lot.
I think one guy down here's got rocks, large rocks, bordering the sidewalk so nobody can get close to his thing.
Right.
Yeah, I'll have to check that one out, though, on Orlando. I mean, just for somebody to arbitrarily put one out there, you know, signage like that. We could just start a signage collection down at the Public Works yard.
Well, just don't be too fast. 'Cause a lot of times, somebody up the blocks decided they needed to park their tractor trailer or their
Oh, yeah.
Winnebago. And now, the enjoyment of their personal property is taken away.
True.
You know, some of these right-of-ways are outlandish.
And we've actually had discussion on identifying excess right-of-way and making it available for the adjacent property owner to, you know, purchase it.
I think it's a great idea.
I do too. I mean, I've got 8 feet in front of my house before the sidewalk that I'd love to purchase. Years ago, I put my sprinkler system in there, and now my wife says, "Oh, I can't do that." So my fence is now
Yeah.
back, so I got 8 foot of dirt in front of my house.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we'd love for you to be able to landscape it, make it look nice.
There
Yeah.
might be a PUE within the right-of-way, though.
Yeah, it depends on every one would have to be looked at individually, but we've talked about that within the downtown area. That's, if you recall, the Lions that went through a while back, we actually sold them excess right-of-way, but that's because their house encroached 7 feet into the public right-of-way. But it was deemed excess anyway, so.
Yes.
Yeah, there's plenty along Willow.
Willow and Central,
All these
yeah.
have
Yeah.
my
So under sign height, number 2, I added in height above grade with grade capitalized for any property. So that they just have something to measure the standard to measure from.
There's that width of sign base again.
Something drove that bus, but I don't really remember
Oh.
what it was.
And then down on number 4, again, there's that that distance thing again, this depending on how you're going to handle it. I had written in linear distance of at least 200 scratch linear feet, but you're going to massage that to see if that's viable or just scratch it all together, so whatever you just chose to do. And then under 6, got me thinking, freestanding signs must be located at least 5 feet from all property lines. And I started thinking, maybe we should put in here like minimum distance from hydrants, water valves, power transformers, utility poles, and things like that. Because if they crowd utility boxes or other things, then you can't deal with them. Or if they crowd a fire hydrant, then it's inoperable. And but we catch property lines, but are there other things that we should have minimum distances from as well?
Well, we're saying easements or right-of-way.
and that's usually,
Fire hydrants and things of that nature would be in an easement or a right-of-way. Power poles.
Yeah.
and then it's going to also be subject to whatever utility or authority is there. You to look at through the review process if they have clearance requirements like gas meter and stuff
I
like
would just
that.
rather tell them up front that don't put these things within 5 feet, and not have to catch them through a review when they could have known previously.
We can
Engineering
do
has
some wording on
standards
that.
for separations.
We
What's
can,
that?
we can do some wording for this.
Yeah, we can insert additional language to give staff.
Yeah.
ability. If we
Right.
see a situation, we need to make sure you're clear of this, and then they fight us and we say
I
we
just
have
want to
to.
make sure that when John Q. engineer or developer or sign guy starts putting a sign in, this is all caught even before review 1. He doesn't have to review it, 'cause he's already saw it in our standards, that don't put anything within 5 feet of our valves, our hydrants, our
Right.
poles, our other things.
Well, I'm even thinking meter boxes.
Meter boxes,
Yeah.
all those things.
Mhm.
Like, I'll just make a note, but something in line with additional clearance from other
We'll come up with language.
utility,
Yeah, that's good.
Sticking on that same page, under 3B, shouldn't sign area be capitalized since it's a defined term?
Yeah. And hopefully I caught all those when I went through this, and I'm just going to give that, my copy to them. So, yeah, good catch.
I'm trying to name the things
Yeah,
that
that's how I
the
draw
sign
it.
has to stay away from. Got to try and capture that with not a list, because you won't have everything on the list. Somehow or another, something will get missed. So I have to
We'll
come up
come
with
up
a
with some
generic
language.
term,
Yeah.
Appurtenance or whatever.
Water, wastewater, and electrical appurtenances or something.
Yeah, something along that line. Well, it's not, a list is just not going to get it.
Mhm.
Okay, moving right along.
Top of
Did you have a
27,
note
again,
on
you have that
something?
comment, I think you
Did you
already.
make a comment?
Yeah, on 3A, or, excuse me, 3B, sign area should be capitalized.
Thank you.
Oh, top of 27, I think we caught it earlier, but just in case, there's that interesting language under 8, provide a minimum amount of plant material equal to 35% of the required enhanced landscape area.
Yeah, I've got a note on there to clarify.
It's another
Got
time.
another. Mhm.
And then this section, I'm trying to remember what this is all about. Signs for residential districts, are we still under that?
Yes.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, so they may not even,
temporary signs here, there's no mention of duration. We have, when we talk about temporary signs elsewhere, we talk about durations they can be there. And under the definition, I'm trying to remember, temporary sign, it just says, it doesn't give a duration, but
We're still
every place else we've talked about temporary signs, we've had a duration as part of it. So that's part E on page 27. So just, I think we need some qualifier in there that says it can only be there for 60 days or
Scroll down.
30 days. It's the very last thing, just keep scrolling down,
Page 27.
27, E.
Yeah.
right there,
Oh, B,
E.
E,
E. It's an
temporary
L.
signs.
but you don't have a duration.
There's a duration under
Wait, it?
A and B on subdivisions on the next page, but you're right, there's not a duration for any other type of signs.
So like right before the giant space, it's temporary.
Right?
We
Is
don't.
temporary signs allowed in subdivisions?
Oh, so it's connected to the.
Yeah, for some reason, the accepted track changes, or there might be something wrong with the paragraphs. But temporary sign is the heading for what's to come. Subdivisions are allowed, construction signs, which all have their
Oh, I see.
provisions,
Oh.
sorry.
Still 95%
It's a
of the lots
spacing
are
Oh,
sold.
okay.
Yeah,
I saw the big space there and went, oh,
Yeah.
that's all by itself. Now I understand, yeah, it should have been connected.
Yeah, okay.
Gotcha. Okay, makes sense. So under that number 1 subdivision, subheading small a, again, I have this maximum capitalized sign area, 3 lines down, of 96 square feet. And maybe with the maximum height of 10 feet above grade. And then under F, kind of similar comment. F subsection 1, second sentence, the sign not scratch face and put area, capitalized, and shall not have, strike have, and insert B, a maximum strike area of 32 square feet and a maximum height of above grade of 8 feet, or 8 feet above grade, whichever you feel better about. That's all nice stuff in that section.
Okay. Any other comments in that section? Go. We'll still have a quorum. We're fine. Thank you. Got to do what you got to do. 150.102, submittal and permit requirements.
101, right?
101 on page 28.
Keep getting ahead of you.
I-
You're right. I'm sorry. I read through that and didn't even see the 150.101. Any comments on comprehensive sign plan required?
For me.
That has always been an area of heartburn because it's expensive.
Is that why it was left out? The code, I wonder.
Yeah, well, it is. It's an expensive undertaking.
Yeah.
Any other comments on 150.101? Then we're moving along. 150.102, submittal and permit requirements.
I have a comment or a question about this. Why does the lettering in both the top section and that first subsection, why does it start with E? And then the first subsection, why does it start with 6 instead of starting over with A? If it's its own section, it should start with A.
Got it. I don't know what happened there, and I don't know where those comments.
Sounds like late night oil burning.
Yeah. It's not showing up on yours, Dana.
I just changed it.
Oh, okay.
It was the alphanumeric nomenclature was just continuing from a prior section, and I just reset it.
That's what's wrong with autocorrect.
Oops. And it,
Section C, it should be 1 through 6 instead of 6 through 11.
All right.
Didn't catch that.
I do have a comment later. Just keep scrolling down under subsection C there. The last one, it says required information for an electrical permit. Is that all inclusive? Usually when you see that it's in conformance with National Electric Code, versus an electric permit, but maybe that's goofy enough to catch everything. That's just a question.
Well, you know, the signage comes under the planning department, but if you're going to electrify it, now you got the building official involved.
and the plans will say specifying this UL product.
Yeah, I would imagine if you're submitting the information about the electric permit, you have to supply all that information to obtain the electric permit.
Right.
Just a question, because usually I see in conformance with code such and such, electric code this, which is the current one used by the town or something like that. But that's just a question.
I think it could go either way on it. We could refer to the International Electric Code or leave it as is, either way.
That's just a question. I'm not pushing one way or the other, it's just a question.
Yeah, and I think historically, or this particular code, and a lot of codes, most codes I've worked with, try not to start crossing codes now, or going from zoning over to building, and when building changes, we're going to go change our zoning code, so.
I'm just bringing it up because I saw it and just raised a question in my mind, so I'm good with it, no problem. And then the one thing I did not see here that needs to be required as part of the town's review is anything for structural. Wind load, working stresses and safety factors for the materials being used, and the attachments and things like that. I would think that the town would want all of that.
And that's where the building code, building permit requirements come in. We are getting out there with the electrical and even making that mention, the doors open, and all other codes applicable. We could probably do.
Actually, that's kind of a potential discussion. This section as a whole, submittal and permit requirements, should it even be in the development code?
I'm just commenting on what's there.
Oh, yeah,
It's pretty detailed.
Yeah.
yeah, but
I think, as far as submitting for, design review or for sign review or something like that, but as far as for the building code.
Basically lists what you're required
Yeah.
to submit and your name and all that information. I agree.
wait a minute now. If somebody wants to put a sign up and they come to you, that starts the discussion.
Right.
If it is a generic sign, then it doesn't need to go any further than the planning department. But the planning department is, let me give you an example. I did a building over here on Ruggles. Jumped through all the hoops, and I got the building permit. Followed all the rules on the piece of paper. I got 5 guys working, and Public Works comes marching down the street. Stop work. You didn't pay for our permit. Didn't even know I needed one. There I am burning $75, $100 an hour, and now I'm in stop work. So my point is, if the sign is more complicated than a single generic sign where you actually need to do wind loading or look at it from a structural standpoint, then that's something that the planning department would bring in the building department.
Correct.
So that kind of language does not need to be in here other than to say that the sign requires a permit.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's up to you, in your checklist, how many departments it has to hit.
Flag it and, yeah,
Right.
right. So this may be non-essential information.
Other than prior to the issuance of a sign permits for any business, a comprehensive sign plan. Okay, so you're telling me he has to do that prior to the issuance. And you decide what departments that needs to be reviewed and what information might be missing.
We're over here, right, though, submittal and permit requirements. If
I'm sorry.
If you're basically saying that you will need to get a sign permit for all signs.
Or issuing
and
any sign permit.
Yeah.
submit-
Signs must, what am I looking for?
So, yeah, I understand where you're going. We want to be a little more generic so
Yeah.
that we can get, and that's fine, because this is being very specific, so I was in, yeah.
If we don't have that type of language in other areas that we know a permit's required. So in looking at this, it looks like C is the too detailed information that we could delete. But A, B
Yeah,
could probably exist. D,
right.
kind of our procedural responsibilities are still included. And E, does that sound good? I'll just delete C.
I would agree with that, right.
That's cool.
I would add, though, some of the sign applications we see
Yeah.
definitely could use that language.
I'm done in that section now.
Anyone else in that area? All right, 150.103, exceptions, permits not required.
A is just a question of where that magic number comes from. Any sign not exceeding 6 square feet.
Came with it, and I have seen in a few other codes, but sign permits are not required, which makes sense. Well, if it's got electrical and it's 3 square feet, you're gonna get a permit.
Yeah. And the only thing I could think of
Let's
is,
delete that.
yeah, I was going to say, let's just delete
I
that.
came across it. and thought,
Because other things like, A-frame signs,
Right.
Is this sort of an industry standard? I just don't know enough to,
again, this was in the draft that we inherited, and I really don't know what the rationale was.
that's just a curiosity question, is
Yeah.
where 6 square feet comes from.
Yeah, I don't know of any magic number, though.
The challenge, we'd rather tell somebody, but I'm just thinking about that, if there's something else involved in whatever that sign is, or they're attaching it to a building, we'll delete that.
Well,
That sounds good.
if this is something that our neighbors, if 6 is the magic number that our neighbors are using, we want to be competitive with them, that's fine. Just a question, just a curiosity question.
But I think it could be misconstrued if there are other things, well, you're attaching it to a wall. You have to we have to understand how you're attaching that so it doesn't fly off in the wind and decapitate your neighbor or something like that, or the electricals, right, and it would open up a conversation that would be difficult to explain to a layman.
And you see that
We'll revisit it, too.
D and F are repetitive, right? Or,
Yeah, D and F say the same thing.
painted signs on windows, got that twice. Now it's C and E now. Yeah, there you go. And then under H, signs required for the posting of neighborhood meetings or public hearings related to Town of Florence applications. Should we allow HOAs to advertise too and things like that? I don't know that it's a big deal, but I see those
Well,
posted.
I guess, you mean the HOAs for their meetings and things like that? Those that come under, in some way, shape, or form, I kind of put those under the A-frame category. And the reason being is those are up for a very, very short period of time on a monthly basis or however often the HOA. But, excuse me, required for posting, there are time-specific periods of time that those have to be posted prior to a meeting and things of that nature.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Just a question mark in my mind, so just.
The only thing we do, for example, in HOA, from a policing standpoint, as long as they're not sitting in, on the sidewalk or on the ADA handicap ramp at an intersection, things like that, that's when we add to our collection of illegal signs down at the Public Works Yard. Which I don't think we have one of those, by the way, but
That's all my comments in that section.
Okay. Any other comments? 150.104, legal non-conforming signs.
Under section D, the last line there. Which may include removal if the sign is now defined as a prohibited sign. Does prohibited sign need to be defined somewhere, or is it read okay there? That's just a question. Maybe this is all.
Well, we have that list of signs that are not permitted.
I just didn't know if we need to define. It's probably okay, I'm just raising the question.
Yeah. Maybe a different way to say that makes it, easier to cross-reference.
I would take out now is defined as a prohibited sign.
Yeah.
The sign is defined as a prohibited sign. It's one long sentence.
Oh, yeah, that might actually be something worth looking at. That's a really long sentence. It might be a better way of saying that to make it a little easier to deal with.
I'll put it
And the
in.
same with E. It's a really long sentence.
150.105, signs rendered non-conforming.
That's several in D, and it's 90% of them relate to, this talks about area several times, height and area. Should be sign, capitalized, sign area, sign on all of those locations, just to, so that it conforms to the definition. Same thing down in E, there's a whole bunch of use of area that probably needs to be sign area. I won't go through all those because I noted them in my comments here. I'll just give them to you.
Thank you.
I'm done. That section.
Some of this stuff is way over my head. Okay, 150.106, abandoned signs. They're always fun.
In A, it's just to add a word, a criteria for establishing abandonment. I'm good. That's a mistake on my part. I was going to put the word of abandonment, but I think it reads just fine now.
That was A?
And
We're in 106. Go to page 32.
I think it's fine.
This one?
But A number 1, the use of the word anywhere, we probably better change that word because they might still be in business in upstate New York, and that's somewhere.
Just lose the word altogether.
Location.
Doesn't make any sense.
It's not been in business, maybe just strike it.
Yeah, strike the word.
Florence.
Strike the word
maybe.
anywhere, or,
Yeah, has not been in business for more than 6 months.
In Florence, in the
Within the
county,
town of
in the
Florence.
state, or,
Well,
but anywhere is a little bit too loosey-goosey.
What we're trying to do here is, like, for instance, Verizon was in the Walmart shopping center.
Mm-hmm.
Now they have a sign that shows they relocated and where that new location is.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what this sentence is trying to do, is, in other words, they closed up shop and they moved 2 blocks over that way. Any business advertised therein is no longer in business and has not been in business anywhere for more than 6 months. So, is that what we're trying to do with that sentence?
I didn't think so. I mean, that would be a very standard thing for them to do, is put something in their window that says we have, relocated to. Yeah. No, this has to do, I think, more with, let's look at the Circle Ks that, the ones that were closed up.
Right.
Those signs are gone.
Right.
Had they left them there, if that business was closed and that sign was still up after 6 months, we could actually cite the property owner to remove them. I think that's what it refers to. But the word anywhere doesn't make sense.
I'm thinking about some franchise operation that's located out of Las Vegas, Nevada. They open a franchise here. It goes under, but yet we still have all the crud there, but they're still doing business in Las
Right.
Vegas, and we can't get rid of it because they're still doing it somewhere.
Now, that's why the anywhere ought to go away.
Yeah.
But that's what it really refers to, I believe.
Something different than anywhere needs to be here.
Right.
So I like Chairman Pranzo's comment about, okay, they would put, if they did choose to put, hey, just move locations. So I just made a clarification of within the town, so we don't have that little problem, and it would address
Well-
Chairman's issue, but or we could, if the intent is, once that business is closed, that sign, the town has the ability to make that sign get removed.
But they could relocate somewhere else within the town.
But if they
the idea.
relocate somewhere else within the town, they should still be responsible for taking that
Yeah.
sign down.
Absolutely.
Immediately, without any concern of them saying, hey, we're just relocated,
I like
and
the
we
language.
give them 6 months, and then we say, get the thing
Okay.
down.
The manageable, so I like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we've got to give a little window.
Okay.
I don't like it at all. Let's say I own a business. I own the building. And I got a sign up. It says I relocated to another building I bought.
This doesn't prohibit that.
Doesn't prohibit that, man.
For 6 months.
think gives you 6 months to do it.
What if I want to leave it there for a year?
Well, okay,
My building,
I think what we're making more out of this than I understand this to be intended to be. We're talking about the actual business sign itself. Let's say it's on a monument sign or on the wall or something like that that shows Ben's Saddle Shop, and Ben ends up moving his saddle shop someplace else. And in the window, he says, I moved my saddle shop to thus and such address. Do we want him to leave those Ben Saddle Shop signs still freestanding or on the building if it's no longer there? As far as him putting a sign that says, I've relocated in his window, there's nothing wrong with that at all, I don't think.
all right, we'll leave it alone.
Yeah, that's the way I understand the intent of this. That's what other codes have done.
All right.
And the other intent is that it needs to be on site. Your business signage should be on site unless otherwise permitted someplace else in this code, like the A-frames or something like that. So you don't want to make a
Yeah.
habit of allowing signage on a property that isn't advertising for that property.
And on the next page, under B, removal of abandoned signs. My question there, the business is gone, there's no owner we can find, who removes the sign?
Town has the ability, and we're going through this right now with the Cocapellis, quite frankly, to write I forget what they call all the legal terms, but we can actually get permission through the magistrate to mitigate.
Probably should say that there then, somewhere in that. He just kind of leaves it hanging. Then the last line of that same section, and that there is a reasonable possibility that the sign can be restored to use within a 1-year period. Should it be will be versus can be? Because it always can be, but will it be?
Okay.
That's all my comments in that section.
Any other comments? 150.107, unsafe signs.
I just have one comment about that the first paragraph. The majority of that is one very long sentence full of comments.
Yes, it is.
So I think that some massaging could be done there to help that, so that there's not so many commas in there.
Right. Any other comments on that section? 150.108, enforcement and penalties. That's pretty straightforward where I live. 150.109 to 150.130 are reserved. For who, I don't know.
And then the rest of the document that you were provided in your packet are just some different types of examples that we're finding, and we're going to be working on coming up with something, some type of consistent representation of how to measure signs that, to help further define locations, things like that. These are just some samples that have been pulled together to date. And as I said, I'll try to pull together a PowerPoint presentation for you on just actual signs that are out there to help better define.
Yeah, that sort of thing has been very useful in the past. I do believe we've gotten through it.
Good job.
Well, amend's amend, but okay. All right, moving right along. Considering that we have spent 2 hours on this and that we have perused and rather dissected in detail, I will move that we go back into session. May I have a second?
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We are now in session. Presentations. Please make this short. Future agenda items, information only.
Extremely short. We have no pending new items. We will be continuing on with the parking code, the sign code. You will be seeing a draft update to the lighting code in the near future because they're all kind of interrelated. But other than that, there's nothing really extraordinary to offer.
Great. 7, call to the public. Commission response. I will open to the public. I will close to the public. Call to the commission, current events only. Any current events, gentlemen? Then I will close to the commission. And seeing how we have done everything on the list, I will move that we adjourn. May I have a second?
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.